Hi, welcome to the bathtub. It's the old masturbator, Scott Bradfield, formerly known as Pao Zhao Jiao Shou to the estimable and wise Chinese people, but now referred to almost entirely as that tariff-levying Yankee bastard. I don't know. It doesn't seem fair, but I have to accept what I get. This is the first episode. We're going to do two episodes of one of my favorite novels, Thomas Pynchon's Bleeding Edge. I've been meaning to go back and reread this since we started the stupid show about 7 or 8 years ago. Good Lord. This is 2013. I must have read it about a year or two after it came out. I remember buying this. I buy all my books at thrift shops. I bought it at a thrift shop for like $1 or $2 for a brand new first edition. And this was in England. And loved it. First time I read it. He's very different. It gets easier as he gets older as a writer to read, but he still takes a lot of attention. And I'm rereading it now. Most of you know that there's going to be a new Pynchon novel has been announced for October, I believe. I'll enjoy reading that. And I'll just say a few quick words. I was one of the people who did not like Thomas Pynchon for many years. I have never finished Gravity's Rainbow. I know this is a lot of the bathing buddies out there are going to not like me. I might take away my bathtub credentials. I've never been able to get through this book. I think his first three novels, I finished Crying of Lot 49 and taught it a few times in classes. But his first three novels, I just think the writing is just so hard to follow and it's so jumpy. And I think someday I will try to articulate why I don't like these books. And I read, and when Violin came out in '89, I think. I remember it coming out and thinking, "Oh God, I'm never going to read that." And then for some reason, it got bad reviews. People say Pynchon's no good. I thought, well, maybe that's a good sign. And I picked up Violin and loved it. And we've talked about Violin, my love for that book. I guess it's becoming made into a movie by the great, interesting P.T. Anderson. Anyway, I love that book. I love Inherent Vice. Never saw the movie. Never intend to see the movie. Loved those two novels. Read them many, many times. And read Bleeding Edge when it came out. About 2015, 2000, something like that. And I'm enjoying the hell out of it now. I'm not going to try to summarize it too much. I don't think you can really summarize Pynchon's novels. He has so many characters, so many kind of wacky names, so many different stories coming in and out of it. And you'll sort of see almost immediately that, as he gets older, he starts to write real narrative. He doesn't write these just endless block paragraphs that are just packed with clever ideas. He writes very, very complicated, interesting narrative sentences and paragraphs. This is the only book, I don't like to say pretentious things like this, but the only novel about 911, which I think is actually a great book about something. I've often said this, I don't, if a book's about World War II or post-World War II American politics, a novel should be a pleasure and enjoyment to read. I don't care if they're about anything. I do believe he gets something in this about 911 and about the craziness of our country as 911 occurred and all of this sort of complex network of conspiracies, some of which are fantasized by the central characters and some of which may well be out there. That kind of craziness about America, which made it prone to so many fantasies about what really happened on 911. And he gets at it. So the first half of the book is told. I'm going to have to keep checking because there's so many characters in this book. It's a detective story again, like Inherent Vice. The central character is Maxine Tarnow, who's a Jewish girl in New York, who starts off as I forget what her original job is. She investigates fraud and financial fraud, and for some reason she loses her credibility as a serious financial fraud investigator because she does something wrong. I forget what it was now. And because she loses her credentials, all sorts of crazy people want her to work for them because she's not considered totally legit, if that makes sense. It's a Jewish girl, and there's a lot of Jewish jokes about Jewish language and places and types of shops. Shops. I had the feeling that Pynchon must have married. I think he married a girl in New York who's a famous literary agent, and I get the feeling he based a lot of this on her family. I'm just taking that just totally off the top of my head, but she's a well-known literary agent. There's a kind of left-wing Jewish parents of her who are sort of old guard Jewish leftists in New York. And he gets all the different characters, all the languages. They're mixed up with, and in their families they have Mossad agents, and they have kind of super right-wing Jewish political figures and characters. And it's not just Jewish, but there's a lot of jokes about Jewish vernacular, Jewish language, and Jewish culture in New York. It's all set in New York. It's set at the end of the dot-com boom. So it takes place at the very beginning, 2000s, at the end of 1999. I forget exactly. And there's a lot of characters in it, particularly involved with creation of the whole online communities that we're all sort of part of now. And there's a group of people who are creating a deep web. They're investigating the deep web, they call it. I don't know any of this stuff. I have no technical. I can barely get the YouTube thing to go. But they're building these kind of, like these Minecraft communities down deep in the web where you're supposed to, one's called Deep Archer. Perfect Pynchon name. Deep Archer, with an archer pointing the way, but it's also departure from the world we live in into this kind of subterranean network where you meet all these avatars of people and you become an avatar to other people. So that's one of the ideas in it. There's so many ideas I've already probably forgotten. I'm about 2/3 of the way through the book. About halfway through the book, 911 happens. So you have all these conspiracies that are starting to develop that Maxine is investigating, and she's investigating all these connections between all these different people, including a super rich guy named, I think his name's Ice. There's always a super evil, multi-zillionaire Elon Musk type character in all of Pynchon's books, it seems. And he's somehow manipulating all of this or not manipulating it. They're all involved in sort of international conspiracies. The there's Arab, what would you call it? Saudi officials or Saudi government people seem to be infiltrating everywhere. And that is all going on in the background. But what's sort of most interesting about the book is keeping up with this sort of tangle. It's like like a super, super complicated Ross Thomas novel with the complications, with all the way the gangsters is. There's a mafioso in it who's got a cousin who's in the CIA. It's all the interconnections of all these different powerful people. At the same time, what's most beautiful about the book is the way Pynchon writes about the real life of New York families, fairly well-off middle-class New York families who have their kids in private schools, and walking the kids to the school, and the connections between all the parents and the father, the parents are getting divorced. Maxine and her husband, who she still loves, and they're breaking up, and they have 2 sons, and the sons' relationships with the father. He really, really becomes a great writer in the second half of his life. I say this again. He writes about people you really sort of know and you like most of these characters in it. Whereas his early books were just so clever. I didn't even understand most of the characters. Anyway, I'm not going to try to give you the plot too much. I'll give you a little bit more in the second part of this. I just want to read a few passages, just to give you a bit of the flavor of this world that he's creating. And like I said, it's talking about this sort of nightmarish techno conspiracy, which is our modern world, at the same time as this terrible violence occurs, an indicator of not only that violence, but the violence that's going on all over the world. I'm going to read you start off with a passage. The kids come home, some friends come over, and they're going to someone's house. Oh, she's going to her friend. Maxine has a friend named Verva. They always have weird names. And the girls they're collecting Beanie Babies. So this is the end of the 1990s. And they're collecting Beanie Babies. Everything is about making money off nothing, making money off capital, just making money off buying and selling stuff that doesn't even really exist half the time. And the kids have their own little Barbie. It's a type of Barbie Mall they have in their room. I'll just describe it. It's called Melanie's Mall. And this is what they're building in the young girl's bedroom. Melanie herself is a half-scale Barbie with a gold credit card she uses for clothes, makeup, hairstyling, and other necessities. The secret identity Otis and Fiona have given her is a bit darker and requires some quick costume changes. So they have a Barbie doll, but they've created a secret identity for her. The mall has a water fountain, a pizza parlor, an ATM, and most important, an escalator, which comes in handy for shootout scenarios. Otis, having introduced into the suburban girl idol a number of 4.5-inch action figures, many from the cartoon show Dragon Ball Z, including Prince Vegeta, Goku and Gohan, Zarbon, and others. Scenarios tend to center on violent assault, terrorist shoplifting sprees, and yup discombobulation, each of which ends in the widespread destruction of the mall, principally at the hands of Fiona's alter ego, the eponymous Melanie, in cape and ammo belts herself. Among fiercely imagined smoke and wreckage, with generic plastic bodies horizontal and disassembled everywhere, Otis and Fiona kiss off each episode by high-fiving and singing the tag from the Melanie Mall's commercial, "It's cool at the mall." The kids are creating these violent terrorist situations with their Barbie dolls. I don't even remember why I picked these. I have so many passages I would like to read you. It's great fun. It gets better as it goes along, this book. This is a passage I wanted to read, but I can't separate the pages. And watch me wipe my nose with tissue again. How exciting. She's talking. Oh, she gets involved with there's a Russian mafioso guy in it, and then I think there's a Chechen terrorist, and they're all running around New York trying to make money off capital. And at one time, he said they're talking about Maxine warns off some gangsters about Bernie Madoff. There's a lot of real characters that come and go in this book, unlike many Pynchon books. And she warns the gangsters about not to do business with Bernie Madoff. Because and this one guy says, late capitalism is a pyramid racket. Late capitalism is a pyramid racket on a global scale, the kind of pyramid you do human sacrifices up on top of, meantime getting the suckers to believe it's all going on forever. One sentence I do think he encapsulates not just these fantastic scenarios, but the New York of the 1990s and beyond. This is a little passage. I'm going to stop here and then I'm going to read a few more passages in part two. This is when she's going into the down. She investigates this deep web world of Deep Archer. I think that's what this is. And there's a lot of there's hash slingers, and there's all these different corporations that are running around buying each other up. And this place is supposed to be a place for freedom, where people can create their own realities down in this deep place. And of course, all the corporate conspiracies are trying to invade and take over and deal with the exits. They all want to get the back, come in the back door of this place, which is a metaphor that you can read a various number of ways. This is described going on into the downward deep web. Presently they're linked and slowly descending from wee hours Manhattan into teeming darkness, leaving the surface net crawlers busy overhead slithering link to link, leaving behind the banners and pop-ups and user groups and self-replicating chat rooms, down to where they can begin cruising among co-opted blocks of address space, with cyber thugs guarding the perimeters, spammer operation centers, video games one way or another deemed too violent or offensive or intensely beautiful for the market as currently defined. It surprises Maxine how populated it is down here in sub-spider country. Adventurers, pilgrims, remittance folks, lovers on the run, claim jumpers, skips, fugue cases, and a high number of inquisitive entrepreneurs. Among them, Promo Man, whom Eric introduces her to. His avatar is an amiable geek in square-rimmed glasses, wearing a pair of old-school sandwich boards that carry his name, as do those of his curvaceous coadjutor, Sandwich Girl, her hair literally flaming, a polygon-busy GIF of a bonfire on top of a manga-style sub-teen face. There's not a boring sentence in this book. and narratively, the way he moves from dialogue to reflections to the way people look at each other to the world they're living in, it's beautifully written. And of course, you'll see the connections between him and the sort of so-called cyberpunk writers, the very good writers like William Gibson and Bruce Sterling. The first ones that come to mind, Pat Cadigan, obviously. A lot of the so-called cyberpunks who wrote about these kind of subterranean information worlds that we became living in. We started to live in, and it also reminds you of course Neil Stephenson Snow Crash. But I have to say, and this is nothing to diminish the pleasure of reading those other writers. This is better than any. It's better than all of them. He's such a really wonderful writer, and he really gets at something about this completely crazy world, which is just like a Pynchon novel. And he writes a Pynchon novel about that Pynchon novel. Okay, I'm gonna say that's as much as I could say in this one. It's inadequate to express the pleasures of this book, but I will talk about the second part when I finish it in the next few days. Okay, stay safe.